Good afternoon, family. Peace and blessings. It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boxing community. Shout out to Anthony O'Neill and the Impact Creative Society. Shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. I plan on being here for a good time, but not a long time. This is the agenda for today's show. First and foremost, we're going to talk about a little bit of boxing with the Shakur Stevenson, Mason Cameron situation. Then I'm going to talk about the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team. Then I'm going to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans and the Brandon Ingram situation. Next, I'm going to give my thoughts going into the 2024-2025 NFL season about the New Orleans Saints. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the Southern University Jaguars following SWAC Media Day here on 2024. But first, I'm going to talk about the Shakur Stevenson situation. As we know, Shakur Stevenson had a fight recently, and he has caught a lot of flack and backlash about his performance being, I'm going to phrase this, boring to say the least. So, I've been critical of Shakur Stevenson in the past. First and foremost, I didn't like the whole situation with him and Devin Haney, considering that, Bill Haney and Devin Haney, spent a lot of time with him. They helped him out when he was coming up through the ranks. And supposedly, Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney was supposed to be friends. And for him, to do the things he's done, basically it made him seem like a clout chaser more than anything. And even though Shakur Stevenson is exceptionally talented in the ring, outside of the ring, I really don't like his character. And, talented fighters don't always make the best human beings, if that makes sense. Major shout out to Motivation to Be a Millionaire. Good afternoon, Coach. I know today's episode is going to be great. Yes, sir, it is. That's the plan. Next, Relax and Calm Ran. Salute Coach 67. Great things are coming for this channel. I believe so. Let's go. Followed by the fire emojis. And my brother Jared 11 Green. Salute, family. Salute to you, bro. But back to what I was saying about Shakur Stevenson. He's a great fighter. He's a talented fighter, but I'm not a big fan of his outside of the ring. And I didn't like his antics with the Devin Haney situation more than anything. He was a cloud chasing, trying to get as much attention as he could for himself. Now, the recent fight he had, a lot of casual boxing fans, myself, I'm not as big on the sport of boxing as I once was when I was coming up, especially in my teenage years when you were able to, watch fighters like Roy Jones Jr., who, was kind of the signature fighter on HBO at the time. I watched a lot of Roy Jones Jr. fights. Of course, K was a huge fan of Roy Jones Jr. at the time. But not just Roy Jones Jr., but James Toney. Just so many great fighters on HBO World Championship Boxing at the time. And, we just in a different era, a different day, a different time. So I was more of a hardcore boxing fan then. I'm still a hardcore fan now, but for the most part, for those individuals that follow this channel, there's only a few fighters I really rock with, maybe 3, 4 max. So I'm really not a huge fan of the sport of boxing at this point. So in terms of Shakur Stevenson, with that being said, he's an exceptionally talented fighter. He's a very defensive-minded fighter. He's very skilled. And the casual boxing fans, they really don't appreciate that. they want to see knockouts. Just let's just be honest about the situation. So a lot of casual boxing fans, they're more fans of Tank Davis as opposed to Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, the more technical boxers. But even with that being said, the Bronze Bomber Deontay Wilder, my favorite fighter, he knocks out a lot of people, but yet a lot of people, except, for the exception of, you know, members of the LDBC and fans of our ilk, seem like a lot of individuals really. I'm gonna just put it this way: Deontay Wilder, to me, he's a cash cow of the heavyweight division, but he doesn't have as huge a following as he should. Whereas on the other hand, Tank Davis, he hasn't fought the type of competition the Bronze Bomber has fought, but yet, he seems to have a huge following. And more than anything, it's not just the fact that Tank Davis knocks out people, but outside of the ring, he's a bit of a train wreck too. He's had his domestic incidents and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, I don't think knocking people out is good enough for a lot of these fans. They want the drama and social media nonsense and everything else that goes with it. So Shakur Stevenson just being a skilled fighter is not enough for a lot of these fans. They want the knockouts in the ring. So he went back to his home of New Jersey. And basically, a lot of fans, they got up and they left early during the course of his fight. And in addition to that, he pretty much was getting dragged on social media. Now, I'm just speaking for myself as a boxing fan. First and foremost, whoever is handling Shakur Stevenson, I don't think they're doing a good job. Whoever his handlers are in terms of, deals with him from a social media standpoint, PR, whatever the case may be. It's not a good look, the fact that, people are talking about, his fight being boring, and he's just so hypersensitive. So he's an extremely sensitive individual. He so he lashed out at all these individuals that were saying he was boring. And of course, some of these individuals, like, Mason Cameron, basically it was talking about how boring the fight was. And salute to my brother Jay Good. Salute to you, bro. So, Mason Cameron talked about how boring the fight was. So, of course, Shakur, him being the hypersensitive individual he is, essentially he escalated things instead of de-escalated them. He escalated them to the next level, and he talked about when he see them. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but basically it's on site. And Cam and Mace, basically they, especially Cam, they really wasn't backing out from what Shakur said. Basically, they said, "Hey, when you see us, we're gonna be strapped." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, bro." So whoever handling Shakur first and foremost, he needs to quit being so sensitive for one, and second of all, he needs to stay his behind off of social media. That's first and foremost. Next thing, in terms of it went from, Mason Cam and people just talking about how boring he is and being critical. Shakur escalating the situation and taking it to the next level. Uh, co- then enters in James Prince. And for y'all individuals that don't know who Jay Prince is, Jay Prince used to be the CEO of Rap A Lot Records. Here in the South, Jay Prince, Lil J, whatever you call him, he was highly respected here in the South, extremely revered. The brilliant mind behind the Ghetto Boys. Ghetto Boys is, some legends in these parts, especially here in South Louisiana. And when I was coming up, I used to love, Mind Playing Tricks on You, Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Dang it feels good to be a gangster. Man, it feels good to be a gangster. You know, Willie D, Scarface. The late Bushwick Bill. The Ghetto Boys were a legendary rap group, and James Prince and Jay Prince was so revered back in those days. But, it's sad to see in 2024, you know, especially like the late 80s, early 90s, he was so revered. But it's crazy to see that in 2024, of course, he had the situation with Whack 100. He had the situation with Takashi 69. I'm here in South Louisiana, NBA young boy, and being that I live, not too far from Southern's campus in Baton Rouge. Uh, you know, I'm a coach and a teacher. One of my former coworkers that I'm real close with. She said she taught NBA young boy in school, and she was saying that he didn't like her, she didn't like him. Basically, she was saying that he's a very ignorant individual, so on and so forth. I'm just saying what she said. And, he had the back and forth with Jay Prince, over his little situation. But to me, I think more than anything, I think the situations with Drake and Shakur Stevenson, the back and forth with NBA YoungBoy, Takashi 69, all of these situations, they making Jay Prince look bad, especially considering he's an individual that was so respected and so revered back in the day. It's crazy. At this age and stage of his career, first and foremost, whoever's handling Shakur, they need to tell that boy to get his behind off of social media. Especially if you're going to be as hypersensitive as he is. That's the first thing he needs to do. He needs to get off social media, and he needs to have someone handling his social media accounts. That's first and foremost. Second of all, you're a master class boxer, Shakur. So casual fans are not going to be intrigued by that. They're not going to be moved by that. Your drawing card has to be when you do get on social media. First of all, you can't be so hypersensitive for one. It makes you look bad. But his calling card needs to be you need your claim to fame needs to be, hey, I'm the best 135-pound fighter in the game. You need to be able to talk people into the arena. That needs to be your calling card. Hey, you need to go out there and say, hey, I'm better than Tank Davis. I'm better than Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. I'm better than any 135-pound fighter in the game. And in addition to that, once I become undisputed at 135 and I clean things up and I become the undisputed 135-pound champion the way Devin the Dream Haney did, I'm going to move up to 140 and I'm going to beat Devin the Dream Haney. That needs to be your calling card. And the fact that he's a promotional free agent, whether he's going to re-sign with Bob Arum and Top Rank Boxing, even the Bob Arum angle kind of, aggravates me. And of course, Jay Good said uh, hypersensitivity is a perfect description. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely hypersensitive, bro. I mean, he shouldn't be so sensitive. Criticism comes with the game. Just imagine if you're an NBA player, NFL player, boxing is an individual sport. So imagine people being so sensitive about anytime they get any type of constructive criticism or just criticism in general. Man, I mean, if I was hypersensitive, me doing what I do as a coach, as a teacher, I would never make it. So, he cannot be so hypersensitive. And, this is one of the things that Jay Prince should have told him. Instead of coming at his boy's defense in this whole Cameron and Mace situation and basically saying that, saying this, saying that. And of course, Cam and Mace came back at Jay Prince. They was saying at his age, Jay Prince is 59. I don't know if he's going to turn 60 this year or next year. I don't know when he makes his birthday. However, basically what they were saying is, salute to the brother Jay Boy, salute, bro. But basically what they were saying is, and I'm paraphrasing when it comes to them also, they were saying that Jay Prince to say he's supposed to be such a tough guy. First of all, at his age, he shouldn't be moving the way he moves. And that's 100% accurate. I completely agree with it. And in addition to that, they were saying basically, if you at this age in life and you still, making these idle threats and talking this tough guy talk, basically you failed in life. And I think the biggest issue with Jay Prince is he shouldn't insert himself into these type of situations. Whether it was the situation between Drake and Pusha T, he shouldn't have inserted himself into that particular situation. And he definitely shouldn't have inserted himself into the situation between Shakur Stevenson and Cameron and Mace. I mean, if anything, as an OG, what you should have did was pull Shakur to the side and basically tell him like, "Hey, son, you don't need to be as hypersensitive as you are." And in addition to that, you should teach him how to move as opposed to coming to his defense. Now, don't get me wrong. I know in the instance of Drake and in the instance of Shakur Stevenson, maybe Jay Prince feel like maybe he feels he's protecting his investment. However, in this entire situation, he's making himself look bad. So when it comes to Shakur, now whether he resigns with Top Rank, I mean, from what I'm understanding, that might be the best like available move he has. The best move he has available to him right now, or whether he signs with Oscar De La Hoya, which I wouldn't advise him to do that because I think that would be a bad move. Whether he signs with Eddie Hearn, I mean, a lot of individuals basically think he should essentially just go to the highest bidder, whoever offers him the most money. That's where he should go. From what I'm understanding, evidently, I think Bob Arum and Top Rank offered him a 5-fight deal worth $3 million apiece. But evidently, the numbers for this particular fight, even though people said it was boring, evidently he did pretty good. I mean, considering it's on free TV, but that's another story. Not free TV. Let me rephrase that. Cable TV. So considering it was on cable TV and it wasn't a pay-per-view fight, I mean, to me, should do numbers, even though a lot of people was walking out the arena during the fight. So evidently, he drew some big numbers. Top Rank has, upped the offer, but many individuals feel he should go to the highest bidder. I mean, me personally, you know, Top Rank and Bob Arum has invested a lot into him. I think the issue with him is he's kind of like in a no-win situation because from what I'm understanding, PBC did not offer him a deal. Uh, I don't know if Turkey Al Sheikh is really in the running. Along with Eddie Hearn or whatever the case may be. I don't know what the situation is, but maybe he should go to the highest bidder in the fact that, even though, Bob Arum and Top Rank, they don't know how to promote black fighters, definitely. Not at all. And I mean, in all actuality, they just know how to promote a lot of fighters in general, especially in 2024. And truthfully speaking, in 2024, you really don't need uh, a promoter per se anyway, especially if you move in the proper way in terms of social media. Social media is the only promoter you really need in 2024. If you have a huge following from a social media standpoint and you know how to make the right moves and push the right budget, in all actuality, you really don't need a promoter. So that's why I don't understand how someone like Shakur, he's making himself look so bad in the court of public opinion. Like, dude, just get off social media. And then, of course, the whole situation with Case and Mason Cameron, with Mason Cameron, it escalated, to a whole nother level. Them talking about, other things outside of the ring. So at the end of the day, this whole situation of fiasco. And then the crazy thing about it is individuals that's actually like fans of Shakur Stevenson. I promise you, these individuals do not know that Jay Prince was once the CEO of Rap A Lot Records. I promise you that they never heard Man, It Feels Good to Be a Gangster by the Ghetto Boys. They never heard Mind Playing Tricks on Me by the Ghetto Boys. I guarantee they don't know these things. Not only that, but from the Mason Cameron aspect of it, I promise you they never heard Horse and Carriage by Cameron. They never heard, all of the hits that Mace was a part of in the late 90s, early 2000s when he was on Bad Boy Records. So the point I'm trying to make is like this whole situation is a fiasco, and from a PR standpoint, it might be in Shakur Stevenson's best interest if he hires a PR team, a social media manager, or someone that teaches him how to move in these boxing streets. Because for the most part, he doesn't have anyone in his corner like a Bill Haney to kind of guide him and push him in the right direction. I mean, if anything, that might be, I hate to say it. Well, no, I don't hate to say it. I love to say it. That might be the best move for him, actually to sign with DHP. But in all actuality, I don't think it's going to happen because guess what? I think he's so jealous of Devin Haney. His pride probably won't let him make that type of move. But you never know, a move like that might be in his best interest. Now, transitioning to the next topic. Last week I talked about, the U.S. Olympic team. And, one of the things I talked about was the fact that I felt like them, once they got rid of Kawhi Leonard, well, I'm not going to say got rid of because let's be realistic. Kawhi Leonard is an injury-prone individual. Once they parted ways and they decided they won't get a replacement for him, the best replacement for Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion, would have been either one, Kyrie Irving, but we know they're not going to touch Kyrie Irving because of, some of the PR stuff with Kyrie Irving, and I hate to keep reiterating this point. To me, it's ridiculous and it's crazy the fact that Kyrie Irving tweeted a link to a movie and he caught such backlash, but yet this scumbag piece of trash, Ryan Garcia, had a huge tirade in the fact that the backlash and criticism that Kyrie Irving received was tenfold what Ryan Garcia received. In fact, Ryan Garcia really received no backlash, for the exception of individuals like the General 7A Sports TV, myself, and members of the LDBC, and maybe a few fighters that really stand on business. Nobody really has come at Ryan Garcia because, as far as I'm concerned, it was up to me. Ryan Garcia would be banned from the sport of boxing indefinitely. He would be kicked off of all social media platforms. And the indefinite suspension could potentially be a lifetime suspension, depending on the way he plays the situation. But it's clear and obvious he really doesn't care. He really feels like there's no consequences for his action. He can say and do whatever he wants to do. But, I kind of got sidetracked and went way in a different direction. But the point I'm trying to make is I feel like Kyrie Irving would have been the best replacement for Kawhi Leonard. And if not him, then if not Kawhi Leonard, for Kawhi Leonard, if not Kyrie Irving, then it should have been Jaylen Brown. And of course, we saw Jaylen Brown. He pulled up to the summer league game. And the crazy thing about it is, I guess when you winning in life, you winning in life. Not only did, of course, he get a $300 million contract. The Boston Celtics win the NBA championship. But, I mean, evidently he has a new boo. And those individuals that's in a sports world, y'all know who I'm talking about. So he has a new boo. And I don't know if it's a situation of the fact that, they were just former teammates, or if it's a situation where his girlfriend has a girlfriend, which I doubt that it is, but, who knows. But either way, just watching Jaylen Brown pull up to the Summer League game, I'm like, man, this boy, at this point, he winning in life. But that aside, to me, I felt like that would have been the two best replacements for Kawhi Leonard. I think it would have been either Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, and it seems like, Jaylen Brown, it really isn't. He not worried about it, and I don't know how true it is because I'm on X, and even though it seems like since Elon Musk is taking over X, it seems like is a breeding ground for like racist, degenerate piece of trash like Ryan Garcia. I mean, I don't know what it is because anytime you have people just giving their opinion on things and they banned from X for a little while, Twitter, whatever, formerly known as Twitter, but now X. You know, it seems as if they could be banned for X for the least little thing, but yeah, you can have somebody like Ryan Garcia, that makes these racially insensitive comments about George Floyd and just things in general. So at the end of the day, you know, I mean, X is just I don't know, it's social media, but at the end of the day, I mean, I don't understand, you know, well, I do understand the huge double standard, but I don't understand why there's no outcry, there's no backlash, for what's going on, especially the whole Ryan Garcia. I mean, Ryan Garcia should be, in my opinion, he should be permanently banned from X, which is formerly known as Twitter. How is he not permanently banned to me is crazy, it's insane. But that's another story. Uh Next thing I want to move on to was, but of course, the US Olympic team, I said it on last week's show. Uh, they had an impressive performance recently uh against the Joker-led Serbia team. And at the end of the day, I mean, truthfully speaking, uh I don't see. I mean, they could slip on a banana peel and not win a gold medal, but at the end of the day, uh, I think they're gonna win a gold medal. I really don't see nobody really beating them. Of course, they had a little bit of a scare at one point against Australia, but the fact that they beat Canada, which to me is the second best team. You got SGA, Shea Gilkis Alexander. Uh, you got Jamal Murray. I mean, they pretty much got a solid team. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, I really don't see nobody really being able to match up with the U.S. But even with that being said, I still think they should have put Jalen Brown on the team. But but Jalen Brown pulling up at the summer league game, with his girlfriend, and whether his girlfriend is Angel Reese or not, that's a whole nother story. But I guess it's cool to be the MVP of the finals and having a fly girlfriend and your fly girlfriend having a former teammate that's fly. I mean, who knows? But the issue I have with Jalen Brown at this point is, him saying that Bronny James was trash because I think he went what I think what 6 for whatever he went. He had a poor shooting percentage. He shot an air ball, and basically Jalen Brown was saying that Bronny James is trash. And I don't know if Jalen Brown realized it, but recently they pulled up one of the stats from one of his summer league games. Now people don't realize Jalen Brown was the number 3 overall pick in the NBA draft that year. He was the number 3 pick, and basically the performance he trashed Bronny for, he had a similar performance where I think if Bronny went if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 12, 5 or 15. I mean 6 or 12, no, it was 6 or 15 from what I'm understanding. He went 6 or 15 or whatever he went. Jalen Brown had a performance in the summer league where he went 5 or 15 or whatever the case may be. So the fact that you sit here calling this boy trash, and that that fact that you got people uh like Brandon Jennings saying, "Hey, that was my son," or, I keep it real and whoop de whoop de whoop. Man, look, bro, all of that sounds nice, you know. Like 7A said, until you in a situation where you have children of your own, and you in that situation, like, man, shut up. And like Kenya Mark was telling him, she was like, "Yeah, that sounds good, that sounds nice, but until you in that situation, like, man, just shut up, bro." And the fact that I don't understand it, where you got an individual like Ryan Garcia that says all of this hateful, scumbag, racist, trash stuff, and all these people that were supporting him, like Tank Davis and like Floyd Mayweather Jr., the fact that he went on his racist rant, you know, he showed the racist piece of trash that he is. And the fact that all these individuals that came to his defense initially, you know, none of them have anything to say. None of them. Nobody has anything to say. And Ryan Garcia really isn't getting any real backlash, any real criticism. But yet, LeBron James Jr. or LeBron James' son, you know, gets drafted by the team that his dad is on. You know, they talking about all this nepotism. You know, evidently they didn't play sports in my era because guess what? Throughout the course of my playing career, there was always a team that I played on where, hey, this particular player, the only reason why you knew he was on the team because guess what? You know, he had a family member, a relative, or whoever that was a coach or a friend of a coach or whatever. So, man, like, look, bro, let's just cut out the bull crap. I mean, how many middle school teams I coached against? Like, how many bitty basketball teams or Pop Warner football teams or whatever? Hey, the starting quarterback, his dad is the head coach. Man, this literally happens all the time. So I don't understand why they're acting like this is such a huge revelation. I mean, look, Brook Lopez, brother Robin Lopez, played for the Milwaukee Bucks, and guess what? At this stage in Robin Lopez's career, he probably shouldn't have made an NBA roster. Giannis, younger brother Giannis, he was on the Bucks, and in all actuality, guess what? He probably shouldn't have been on the roster. But so what? Who cares? He's occupying the last spot on the NBA roster. But the thing about it is it's bigger than the NBA because guess what? This type of thing happens in real life all the time. So I don't understand why, you know, all these NBA players are acting so self-righteous. Man, these type of things happen all the time. And then instead of taking this same energy and directing it towards Bron James, all these same individuals need to be taking the same energy and directing it towards Ryan Garcia. But to me, that's too much like, right? It's not a conversation that we really won't have. So to me, the Bron James situation, man, y'all leave that boy alone, bro. Like he's carving out his niche in the NBA. And all right, he might be the last guy on the end of the bench, or he might be the last guy on his NBA roster at this point. But who's to say he can't develop into a productive and solid NBA player? I mean, it wasn't like Jaylen Brown was a world beater the second he was drafted to the Boston Celtics. Man, let's be real, bro. So to me, it's just a ridiculous amount of hypocrisy. I mean, anytime they can actually pull up stats and show where you actually had a worse summer league performance than Bron James, you know, it tells you everything you need to know, man. Leave that boy alone, man. You know. Next, my New Orleans Pelicans. Of course, Brandon Ingram, you know, he's in the last year of his deal with the Pelicans. Reports are that he wants a $200 million max extension. Evidently, the Pelicans really don't want to give him the contract he's looking for. And in addition to that, I guess they tried moving him, but no NBA teams really seem to be biting on Brandon Ingram at this particular point in time. So hopefully Brandon Ingram can go out and he could ball out this coming season. The Pelicans can make a deep playoff run, you know, with a team that's led by Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. And, you know, we could get him the contract extension he needs. But Brandon Ingram, you know, he probably had one of his, you know, since he came to the Pelicans, it's probably the worst season he had. He's coming off of that season. So hopefully he could rebound and he could do his thing. The next topic, you know, of course, you know, going into the 2024-2025 NFL season, you know, some individuals are saying that, you know, they think the New Orleans Saints can win the NFC South. To me, it's kind of like a wait and see type proposition. You know, as long as Dennis Allen is the head coach of the Saints, and Derek Carr is the starting quarterback, I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Saints. You know, I'm hoping they could win the NFC South. Who knows at this point? It's more of a wait and see thing, but more than anything, we kind of at the point in the season, or not point in the season, but the point in the year where, myself, who is a huge fan of the college football, huge fan of the NFL, huge fan of the NBA, where you really have that day point in the year where you have NBA summer league, you have you know NFL mini camps and so on and so forth, and you're getting ready for NFL training camp, right around the corner, and before you know it, the school year is going to start for teachers like myself and coaches like myself, and in addition to that, the college football season is going to be starting and the NFL season is going to start. But you're kind of in that gray area, that dead portion of the season, because I'm really not a big fan of baseball, soccer, or any other sports. It's football and basketball for me. I guess that's the reason why I coach those two sports. But more than anything, I'm not really sold on the Saints being the front runner in the NFC South to win the division. Hopefully things play out that way, but we'll see. The last topic, of the day's show, of course, I talked about Shakur Stevenson, talked about the U.S. Men's Olympic team. I talked about the Pelicans and the Saints. The last topic, of course, for those individuals that have not done so already, on this channel, go check out HBCU Fanatics with myself and my brother Jared 11 Green, where we had an in-depth conversation about Swag Media Day 2024. Swag Media Day was this past Tuesday, and it was interesting. Who was picked from a preseason standpoint to win the SWAC East, who's picked to win the SWAC West, and in addition to that, who made the all preseason SWAC teams, and in addition to that, from a preseason standpoint of who was chosen to be the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. I gave my thoughts on that on HBCU Fanatics with my brother Chad 11 Green. And in addition to that, for my Southern University Jaguars, Kelby Givens was picked to be the preseason All SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, preseason SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. I think Kelby Givens is deserving and worthy of that honor. He excels on the field, in the classroom, in the community. He's the type of player that you would want to represent your program. Kelby Givens had an excellent campaign in 2023. After the season, he entered the transfer portal, and the same way Jordan Lewis did after he entered the portal, Kelby Givens ended up coming back to Southern. So I'm glad he's back, and for that he's been rewarded with being, SWAC preseason Defensive Player of the Year. My only concern about Kelby Givens, of course, first and foremost, he has to stay healthy. That's not just with him, but that's with all players. But more than anything, from a Kelby Givens standpoint, a lot of success he had last year, it was like he fed off of Taj Brown. And for those individuals like myself that went to every Southern University home game, I went to Alabama, Mississippi when they played against Alcorn State. That one game, Taj Brown did not start in. Kelby Givens, he struggled. It seemed like without having that other booking on the opposite side of him, for him to feed off of, for that individual to say, hey, either meet me to the quarterback or beat me to the quarterback. Seemed like he wasn't that same player when they played against, Alcorn State. Kelby Givens was, and even a game against Prairie View where, Taj Brown tried to give it a go, but you could tell he really wasn't healthy. He struggled in that game a little bit to me also. He played decent, but he wasn't what he was, early in the year. And, even in the Classic, he flashed at moments, but, I just didn't see the same guy that I saw the entire season. Now, when Taj Brown got hurt, because to me, Taj Brown wasn't as durable as Kelby Givens. He was a little bit more injury prone. But when Taj Brown, would go out for a few snaps or a handful of plays or whatever the case may be, you know, Kelvin Givens still played well. But, him not being there for an entire game, when he didn't start in that game against Alcorn State, I kind of saw the difference. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't know what whoever it was told him, whatever they told him to start the second half. I'm not even going to lie. He came out because, the defense struggled the entire second half. I'm sorry. The defense struggled the entire first half. The only stop that they really made was essentially it wasn't the fact that the defense played well and got a stop. It was more of the fact that Alcorn just didn't convert more than anything. And to start the second half, I don't know what it was. Because in all actuality, even though Taj Brown didn't play, they really didn't double him when he played Alcorn State in that first half. They didn't chip on him. They didn't slide protection his way. They didn't do anything special. They didn't give him any special individualized attention. But for whatever reason, I don't know who got in his head, who said what. Start the second half, he was fired out. He was fired up coming out the locker room. And, on the field, he just turned up and he played the way he normally played the entire season. You saw it for a couple drives to start the second half, but for the most part, he kind of went back into his shell after that. So hopefully somebody else steps up on the defense. I think Willie Miles could really be the person that I'm not gonna say he could fill Taj Brown's shoes from the standpoint of you have another defensive end to feed off of. But if Willie Miles played the way he played in the spring game, the Blue versus Gold spring game, I really believe that it'll give Kelvin Givens somebody to feed off of. Creole King, salute to you. He said, go coach. And the Mighty Jaguars, I appreciate you. Continue to support Creole King. But back to what I was saying about Kelvin Givens, I think Southern's defense is going to find someone that can kind of replace Taj Brown and give Kelvin Givens somebody to feed off of. I think if he could replicate what he did last season, I think Kelvin Givens will be the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. I hope he is. I hope Southern exceeds expectations because, them being picked to come in fourth in the SWAC West, I disagree. But it's preseason rankings. So I'm really not going to trip off it. If you want to know my full outlook on SWAC Media Day and in terms of the entire SWAC preseason teams, like all the preseason teams, the rankings, preseason rankings for the East and the West, check out the playback of SWAC Fanatics with myself and my brother Jared 11 Green. Just to kind of conclude things in terms of Kelvin Givens, I think Kelvin Givens has all the tools to get the job done this coming season. I think he will get it done. And I think, Southern University is a team, I think they have more talent than they're being given credit for. I think they're going to exceed expectations. And I think they're going to do well this season. So we'll see how things play out. This concludes the second episode of the Coaches Show. I hope you enjoyed. I appreciate everybody that kind of stopped through to show some love. Motivation to be a millionaire, relax and calm rain. My brother Jared 11 Green, my brother Jay Good, Jay Barr, Creole King, Willie Bolden. Salute to you, Willie Bolden. Willie Bolden said, Coach, how can we make SU a destination for talented players? We beat teams with team ball, not talent. I agree with that, Willie Bolden. Truthfully speaking, I think Coach Graves, based on what I've seen so far, especially in the spring, I'm encouraged more so than I was last year this time with Coach Eric Dooley because, even though I knew the team had the talent to get the job done, I wasn't 100% certain of him as a coach based on what he did the previous season. But I was optimistic about it. But once the season progressed, I'm like, this guy not the guy. But I honestly believe that Coach Terrence Graves Uh, I think the team has the talent. I think the only two major concerns are, as I state this all the time, the offensive line play in the secondary. I think if they could square away the offensive line in the secondary, I think we could be a force to be reckoned with. And the crazy thing about it is, I think the entire SWAC is wide open. I think the SWAC West is completely wide open. I think Southern could easily win the SWAC West. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're a front runner like they've been in years past, but I think they could easily win the SWAC West. But the SWAC West is wide open. So, I'm predicting Southern to win the West, me personally. Uh, Other individuals think Alcorn. Other individuals think Prairie View. Other individuals think Grambling. Me personally, I say Southern can win the West. Jay Good said, you more so concerned with corners or safeties? Uh, Honestly, Jay Good, I mean, they lost just a lot of DBs in the secondary just in general. But based on the Blue versus Gold Spring game, I'd probably say more so corners because they gave up a lot of big plays in that Blue versus Gold Spring game. I mean, I think as the game started out, the offensive line was having an issue with the defensive line. Willie Miles was extremely aggressive, extremely active, and the defense just was handing it to the offense. I think the front seven in particular was giving it to the offensive line, but the second quarter started and the offense kind of started to settle in. Uh, Man, I'm not even gonna lie. The offense gradually just turned up, and the secondary gave up a lot of big plays. So just like last year, of course, last year, you had Jordan Carter making a lot of plays on the back half of the defense. But of course, you had Taj Brown and Kelvin Gibbons that was getting a lot of pressure up front. But I think the defense is going to kind of have to do the same thing again this year, where the front four gonna have to really get after the opposing offense and wreak a lot of havoc and cause a lot of pressure. You know, Willie Bolden said he said same thing. Me too. 12-0. Uh, I ain't gonna lie. I think 12-0 might be unrealistic. Jay Good was saying, uh, he think we flying under the radar. I think very much so. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's preseason, so a lot of individuals not really expecting a lot of us. Hey, to me, I think it's a win-win situation because in that particular scenario, all you can go is up. If people think you're gonna finish in fourth ahead of Pine Bluff and Texas Southern, I mean it's a good spot to, it's a good spot to be in. You playing from the bottom, it's only up. So I think we in a good situation. In terms of Willie, he lost some weight. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. I heard the same thing, but just watching him play with my own two eyes during the spring game, I mean he was always a dog, even at Scotlandville, but he was a lot more active and aggressive up front during the spring game. I mean he caused a lot of problems for the offensive line during the spring game. So hopefully those offensive line issues get rectified and resolved. And Willie Bolden makes an excellent point. We're not playing up. It's not like we playing uh, the LSUs of the world or the ULMs or the ULLs. That's true. But even with that being said, those two Southern Conference games, of course, I don't know what it is, but it seemed like from a certain point in the 2000s forward, Southern just struggled with Southern Conference schools. At one point, Southern had, they always struggle with Nicholls State, and my dad, he went to Nicholls State. It wasn't by choice. It was by the fact that my grandmother told him, she asked him like, hey, what university you going to? He was like, yeah, I'm going to Southern. She was like, you better walk your behind into the head of the street and catch that bus going down there at Thibodeau every day. So that's why you went to Nicholls. But he used to hate when Southern would lose at Nicholls, and the vast majority of the time, even when Southern did lose to Nichols, Southern had a much better team than Nichols, especially when they lost to him in '93. The year you win the SWAC championship and the Black National Championship, where you went from winning it outright to having a split because you go to Thibodeau and lose to Nichols. Running a play that you didn't run all year. Quarterback sneak with silent count, and Senior didn't sleep none at all that night. It caused him a lot of problems. But he didn't like playing the PWIs anyway. He always preferred because even when it was talking, they was talking about before they did the actual addition to to A.W. Mumford Stadium, Pee Richardson Field, before they added Tony Clayton championship players and all that other stuff, before they added the addition in the end zone, there were talks of Southern playing LSU to make those additions. And him and I used to talk about it a lot at the time. He was completely against it, and I'm like, well, why not? I mean, if you would play that game and it would give you the money that you would need to make the addition to the end zone, why not? He said, son, I'm gonna be truthful. He said the butt whooping you're gonna take is not worth you getting that addition to the stadium. And I'm like, well, and I was kind of in agreement with him, but he was never in favor of playing LSU. He definitely couldn't stand playing Nicholls State because, of course, he went Nicholls. Nicholls, where I'm from, Nicholls is closer to me than Southern. Southern is about 55, 60 minutes away, whereas Nicholls State is about 35, 36, 37 minutes down Highway 1 in Thibodaux, Louisiana. So he was never a proponent of playing McNeese State. Even when we played McNeese, I think the loss to McNeese, of course, Graham, the defensive coordinator, who was Southern's interim head coach at the time, Jason Rollins, when the last time Southern played McNeese, they were up 21-10, and McNeese came back and ended up winning, I think, 21-24, because I was at that game at A.W. Mumford Stadium. And even the time before that, Southern played McNeese when Gerald Holmes was the starting running back. He had a long one, like a 75-yard run. They caught him on like the 5, but Southern ended up scoring. Southern lost to McNeese that night also. So, Southern lately, when they played Southern Conference teams, they really didn't do well. But, Senior was never a proponent of playing Southern Conference teams, me neither. In fact, Coach Richardson himself, he wasn't a huge proponent of playing Southern Conference teams. I remember at one point, he played Nichols and McNeese in the same year, if I'm not mistaken. And he was like, if we're going to keep playing all these Southern Conference teams, we just might as well leave the SWAC and join the Southern Conference. I mean, he didn't mean that literally. He meant it from the standpoint of, he wasn't a big proponent of playing those Southern Conference teams. And in fact, Senior was more of a proponent of playing like in classics, like maybe like the Circuit City Classic, the SWAC MEAC Challenge. He was more of a proponent of playing those type of games. He was more of a proponent of playing against other HBCUs. Even if you didn't play against another SWAC team, you could play against a MEAC team like a Howard or a Hampton or whoever the case may be. So he was never a proponent of playing in those type of games. Jay Good was saying Willie and Davin should be nice. I think so. Honestly, I think the defense should be pretty decent. Willie Bowden was saying Given say he gained 15 pounds. He has his strength conditioning has gotten better. I mean, that's the thing about it. I mean, I think last year, when he started, I think he was more in the Jordan Lewis type role. But, of course, he was better against the running Jordan Lewis. He was stronger than Jordan Lewis. So I think, him adding 15 pounds, especially if it's 15 pounds of muscle, I think it's going to only help him and benefit him. He was saying, Willie Bowden was saying, it's coaching against whiteness. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I hate to say it. To me, I think that was one of the issues, even with Coach Richardson. I remember the first time Southern played against Northwestern State. They beat Northwestern State pretty handily. They beat them 31-13. And in all actuality, the score really don't represent how dominant Southern was in that particular game. But as the years progressed, especially when they went to Natchitoches in I think 98, 99, That was my first year at Southern at the time. That game, and of course Troy Williams started, and Troy Williams played like trash. Terrence Levy came in the same way Glennon Bubba McDaniel on one drive took Southern on the field and scored a touchdown against Jackson State when Coach Eric Dooley put Harold Blood and Bashawn McCray ahead of him in the game. When Terrence Levy came in at the end of the game against Northwestern, Southern went down straight down the field and scored a touchdown. So I think if Levy would have started, Southern would have won that game. But even when they played in the Crescent City Classic against Tulane, I mean, truthfully speaking, I remember this was like what it had to be like 2000. No, I think it was like 99. Might have been 99 also. I don't remember the year. I think J.P. Lawson was the starting quarterback for Tulane. Southern was up like 7-6, and Tulane made their adjustments. And Coach Richardson didn't really make any counter adjustments. And for the most part, Southern went from being up 7-6 to losing like I think 40-something to 7. So at the end of the day, I don't know what it is about HBCUs, Southern in particular, that really don't make these adjustments when they playing against these PWIs. Like Willie Bowden was saying, maybe it's playing against these white coaches. I don't know what it is. Me personally, Coach Odom was like Cornell Maynard. He was just swag good, and that was one of the things about it. But at least one thing I can say about Coach Odom, in a swag, he beat the teams he was supposed to beat. He didn't lose to Texas Southern. He didn't lose to Mississippi Valley. He won all the games he was supposed to win. Now, of course, like you said, he struggled with Alcorn State. Truthfully speaking, the last SWAC championship game I went to in 2019 before the pandemic hit. Of course, Ladarius Skelton was starting quarterback. I think some of the decisions Coach Odoms made and some of the key costly turnovers that Ladarius Skelton made in that game, it cost in that game. I think they could have easily beaten Alcorn and went on the following week and beat North Carolina State. But hindsight is always 2020. He said to get to the next level, Gibbons has to get bigger and stronger. And of course, like you said, I think he's gonna get there. I think that's the biggest thing with him. He's a speed pass rusher the same way Jordan Lewis was, but he has to be better against the run than Jordan Lewis was. And that's one thing I always said. Even though, crazy thing about it, Taj Brown went from essentially starting nose guard and making second team all SWAC to this past season made moving the defensive end and making second team all SWAC. Even though, really and truly, Kelvin Givens was a better pass rusher than Taj Brown. Taj Brown was more of a disruptive force from the standpoint he was better at stopping the run. And to me, he just seemed like he wreaked more havoc. Yeah, and Jay Good, right, basically, Coach Odoms beat everybody outside of Alcorn. That's really was his Achilles heel. I don't care whether they went to Alcorn or whether Alcorn came to Southern, because I remember one year, it was pouring rain, and in fact, it was the same year they lost to him, if I'm not mistaken, in the SWAC championship game. It was pouring rain in AW, and both teams kind of struggled, and then Alcorn got it going with their running game because Alcorn had this Bashawn McCray, Darius Skelton type quarterback. He was just a good runner. He could pass the ball, but 5-10 yards, that was about it. But Alcorn had a amazing running game and amazing defense, and Southern just couldn't get it going. And basically, as the game progressed, Alcorn just kind of gradually pulled away, and they beat Southern. And I'm like, man. And of course, I don't know what it is. I was talking about this on SWAC and the Fool. Man, they got so many people from Natchez, Mississippi that live in Baton Rouge. I got the school where I worked. Literally, so many Alcorn graduates have come through there, and of course, the week Southern play Alcorn. If Southern lose, man, you'll never hear the end of it. So that's why it's a must that Southern beats Alcorn, because if Southern lose to Alcorn, man, I'll never hear the end of it. So many people from Natchez and so many people from Natchez that live in Baton Rouge, and because I remember the last time Southern played against Alcorn and A.W. Mumford Stadium Peterson Field. And it seemed like the whole doggone row behind me was Alcorn fans, because I sit on the east side, and all of them was from Natchez. And I'm like, man, why so many people from? I asked him, I'm like, why so many people from Natchez live in Baton Rouge? He said, bro, I'm gonna keep it real with you. He said the reason why so many of us from Natchez live in Baton Rouge, he said, because it's far enough to get away from Natchez, but yet it's close enough to if something happens with family, friends, or loved ones, you can literally just make the 90-minute run and be right back home. So he said it's far enough to be, it's far enough away to be away, and it's close enough that if something happens, you could just run home and see what's going on. So he said basically that's why so many people from Natchez live in Baton Rouge. And I'm like, well, I guess it makes sense. And then of course, the thing my former co-coach, she was always saying that basically, hey, she used to try to entice, students from like Scotlandville and other surrounding schools, like, hey, if you go to Alcorn, if you live in Baton Rouge, there's no out-of-state fees. And I'm like, hey, bro, hey, forget that. They're going to Southern. They're not going to Alcorn. But she was always recruiting. And SU Lady Jag, salute. She said, if he didn't win the championship, then to me, he didn't win the games he should have won. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you to a certain degree. But the point I'm trying to make is he beat all the teams he was supposed to beat. Now when it came to, especially in 2019 when I was at the SWAC championship game, that was like a 50-50 type game. Of course, Alcorn was a slight favorite. Southern should have won. Should have, would have, could have. You right, but at least they didn't lose to, like, once he left, they'd start losing to Texas Southern. And I'm like, man, come on, bro. Like, it's bad enough losing to Alcorn, but you want to start losing to Texas Southern? Come on, man. Like, you can't do that, bro. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, Southern, you Lady Jag, you right. They should have won the championship game, but at least we was beating Texas Southern. Willie Bolden was saying, on our level, you have to pass the eye test before the next level pays attention to you at the HBCU. And I mean, that you right from that perspective, whether we talking about teams or individual players. But I mean, at the end of the day, I really believe Coach Graves is really going to kind of sort of push us in the right direction, even the play calling from a standpoint of, to me, seemed like the play calling during the Blue versus Gold spring game, it was comparable to the play calling that, to me, the only good game Coach Dooley called this past season was against Alcorn. But the problem was, you had so many unsportsmanlike penalties, so many stupid turnovers. Harold Blood really, he struggled most of the year, but, the one game he had like some good passes. He threw the ball to Darren Morris. Darren Morris, instead of catching it, he deflected the ball way up in the air. Alcorn intercepted it. Alcorn defender just took the ball away from. I don't know if it was Kobe Dillon or C.J. Russell. Some people were saying it was C.J. Russell. I thought it was Kobe Dillon, me myself. But you just can't let a defensive player just rip the ball out of your hands as a running back. So those type of things, they kind of negated the good play calling he had. But to me, he seemed to call a game the way Coach Dooley did against Alcorn. But of course, the penalties and the turnovers negated that. Willie Bolden, he also said you have to have the measurables, starting with size, and of course, that's the thing about it. We acknowledge he kind of like fit into that Jordan Lewis mold where he kind of lighten the cakes and he need to bulk up. But I really think he really gonna get it going. Should we promote givings on billboards and jerseys? I don't think necessarily. So the reason being is because there's one thing me and Jay Good talked about behind the scenes one day. I think from a brand standpoint, I think if you look at like the WNBA, I think they really need to push, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, because their brand isn't big enough to where, really outside of Las Vegas Aces, WNBA really wasn't popping like that last season. But this year, they really promoted them, and it kind of helped push their brand. Whereas from a Southern standpoint, I don't think you really need to push Kelby Givens or push Chandler Whitfield or push any one particular player. The brand alone, it kind of speaks to itself. And really and truly, even if you look at last year, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know if you look at my Southern University uh, top 10 wide receivers list, you can kind of see, you can see players on there like Mike Hayes and like Devin Lewis and James Vernon. But even if you look at last year's receiving core, I mean, you had August Petrie III, who was the best receiver in my opinion. In addition to August Petrie III, you had Cassius Allen, you had Chandler Whitfield, and you had Jalen Howard. I mean, if you take those 4 wide receivers, if you give them, if Glenn Above McDaniel would have had one more year eligibility, I think he could have done wonders with that receiving core. If you took even maybe like a backup, like somebody like a Warren Matthews, if he, like his junior year, you take a player like him and you put him with that group of receivers, man, I ain't gonna lie. I think a lot of quarterbacks passed at Southern University. If you'd have given that core receivers they had last year, I think they'd have did wonders. So I think it's the talent. I think you got to have the right players on the offensive line. You got to have like a Shatari Carter, Dallas Black, Jeremiah Staff. You got to have those type of players on your offensive line. And then in addition to that, you gotta have the right coach. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna just keep it true. Man, Coach Dooley was trash as a coach, as a head coach. He might be a good offensive coordinator, but he wasn't even that at Southern. So to keep it real, Coach Dooley wasn't the guy. Now I know a lot of people gonna be like, yeah, but I don't think Terrence Graves could bring in the players like Mickey Joseph. But we'll see. I mean, until Mickey Joseph actually coach some games at Grambling, I mean, we just kind of speculate. So it kind of is what it is. And Jay Good was saying, he can't. I came out the gates with zero confidence and blood. Unfortunately, no, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I said it too. I mean, I was being optimistic after the Blue versus Gold spring game last year, and then even coming into the season. But he had the one good pass against Alabama State. Then after that, it was downhill after that. And the crazy thing about it is, it took him so long to realize, like, hey, this dude is not, he not that guy. He not an Eric Randall. He not a Quincy Richard. Hell, he not even Glenn Above McDaniel. So after a certain point, like leading up to the FAMU game, when they played Pine Bluff, he made the pivot where, all right, hey, we're gonna focus more on the running game, but we're gonna start handing the ball over more to Kendrick Grimes. But the crazy thing about it is the offensive line wasn't, good enough to really do that. And Willie Borden was saying in Baton Rouge. I mean, realistically, I don't think just in Baton Rouge. I think the brand itself is good enough in the region to kind of do what you need to do. But at the end of the day, you really need to have the right head coach to make the right decisions. Because, I mean, when I say Coach Dooley wasn't the right head coach, I'm talking from a play calling standpoint. I'm talking from a clock management standpoint. I'm talking from a decision-making standpoint. I'm talking about across the board from a coaching standpoint. And, Jay Good saying basically last year's core wide receiver was a complete waste. And that's the thing about it. When you got 4 wide receivers of this caliber, I mean, truthfully speaking, I think that was the best wide receiving core Southern had in years. And the fact that it just went to waste because, you didn't have a good quarterback, you didn't have a good offensive line. Man, it was sad. And he's saying, why is JSU and FAMU continue to kill us in recruiting? Now that I agree with you, Willie Bolden. And I'm gonna be truthful. I think JSU last year, they killed in recruiting, but that was on paper. JSU didn't win the SWAC East last year. And in terms of FAMU, you got to realize FAMU had Jeremy Musa. They had a senior heavy team last year. And realistically, from what I'm understanding, like the state of Florida, that's the reason why FAMU and Bethune was able to get all of these players to transfers from these Power Fives and these PWIs in the state of Florida. Evidently, FAMU and Bethune, evidently they have a lot of they have a lot of NIL money to play with. So, and what Jay Good was saying, recent success. Yeah, I mean, but of course, you got the Coach Prime thing, and I mean, let's be real. I mean, he get a lot of credit for the success that they had for them back-to-back SWAC championship wins. And then last year, in terms of FAMU, I mean, FAMU had a senior-heavy team. So, FAMU was the team to beat last year, in my opinion. I said it going into the season. In fact, last year going into the season, I picked Southern and FAMU to play in the SWAC championship game. I didn't think, the offense was going to be as inept as it was. I think that was really the thing that really caught us, and it really prevented us from getting to the SWAC championship game was the offense, because the defense, they held us up as long as they could, game in and game out. But a lot of times, in many instances, the defense just kind of folded because the offense just kept them on the field too long. Willie Bowden was saying, I'm the biggest off the bus guy. And I mean, that's the thing about it. Me from a coaching standpoint, I'm not even gonna lie. I done seen teams, man, you might look at them, you're like, man, these dudes are like savage. They look huge. And I done seen teams where you see guys that look like Tarzan and play like Jane, even though it's really cliche. Then I done seen instances where, teams look monstrous and they play that way. So I think it kind of speaks. It just kind of depends on the talent level of the players that you have. In terms of Willie Bowden, he was saying that SU name is trash in LA. Kid would rather sit on benches than come to SU. Well, I mean, you got to realize the landscape kind of changed. Even though you got a lot of players transferring from Power Fives to Southern now, but you got to realize at one point, especially when Coach Richardson had things rocking and rolling, it was like a floodgate from LSU to Southern. And Nick Saban, of course, he put a cork on that because I guess he felt like he was losing too many players from LSU coming to Southern. But really, up until Coach Prime recently, I mean, it wasn't this huge influx of players transferring from PWIs to Power. I mean, from PWIs and Power Fives to the SWAC. Really, until Coach Prime came in recently, and unfortunately, of course, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm looking back at it. I wasn't big on the whole Coach Prime thing, because things didn't turn out the way I would hope they. I mean, I knew, it was just a starter job for him to transition to a PWI. But looking at the whole backlash with this whole Ryan Garcia thing and everything, I'm not even gonna lie. It didn't turn out the way I was hoping. But it did kind of open the floodgates in terms of at least players are coming to the SWAC, and the SWAC is a viable option after coming from PWI. How can we change that? What happened to us? I mean, I think the big thing of it is like Jacob was saying, we really just didn't have the recent success that we had years past. And I think the first thing, I think that's going to help us is having the right coach. I think if Coach Graves could be what I think he can be, I think we could get back to that. And I mean, truthfully speaking, even though we haven't had the success that we had years past, I really think we got a lot of talent on our team. But I think it takes the right coach to put it together. And I think if we get back to our winning ways in terms of bringing a tradition back, winning SWAC, winning Black National Championship, I think the players going to come in due time. But, we got to start winning on the field. And truthfully speaking, I think us being picked up, coming fourth in the SWAC West, I don't think people realize the amount of talent Southern has on this roster. He was saying, Willie Bowden was saying, I want some next level looking guys. I know what you're saying. You're talking like the Mike Hayes type guys, the Willie Quinn type guys, Quincy Richard or whatever. Jordan Lewis, even though he had the sack numbers, basically he was a glorified linebacker playing defensive end. But I understand what you're saying. You want the guys, the otherworldly guys. But I think if you get back to doing what you're doing, I think those guys will come in due time eventually. Willie Bowden was saying, did we just sit on our laurels? I don't think we rested on our laurels. I think it's the fact that, once they transition from Coach Odoms to Coach Jason Rollins, because people don't realize Jason Rollins really wasn't supposed to be the head coach at Southern. It was supposed to be Marshall Faulk. But when Marshall Faulk had the whole NFL Network scandal, administration just kind of backed off him and they pivoted and they went a different direction. And all the reason why they wanted Jason to bring make Jason Rollins the interim head coach and move from the defensive coordinator interim head coach. The reason being is because they wanted to keep the entire coaching staff in place. And then in addition to keeping the entire coaching staff in place, they really had a senior heavy team also, but I'm gonna just keep it real. Just like Coach Dooley wasn't the right guy, Jason Rollins wasn't the right guy either. Though I hate to say it like that, but it's true, Jay Good was saying to me, he just felt like Jason Brown finessed his visit with SU to a greedy, interrupted visit by J State, which was where he probably truly had interest to begin with, solely off of the Deion wave. I'm gonna keep it real from what I'm hearing, that even with all this influx of to this day Power 5 players, like some of these guys that supposedly rolling into J State, some of these guys not even gonna be starting, from what I'm understanding. But I mean, I understand what you're saying, from the standpoint of, it seems like we're not getting the players that we once got in the past, like the Mike Hayes is, like the Nemesis Bates, like the Chris Cooper type cats. But like I said, I mean, I think Southern got talent. I think it takes the right coach to get us to that point. And kind of Jay Good point, coach and a coach. You got to have the right head coach pushing the right buttons, pulling the right strings, and he got to change the culture. And because I think the talent is there, but I think you got to have the right coach. And I think the fact that, Coach Terrence Graves, he'd have been around the SWAC. I mean, he'd have been, really he has a Bayou Classic win over Southern and Graham, So, I think he might be the guy to really get the job done, hopefully, Do we have to promote SU like a resort, athletics and academics wise? I don't necessarily think that we really need to do that. I think we just kind of need to get back to doing what we used to do. And I think at some point, and I mean, I think one component we really kind of leaving out, minus the Coach Prime effect of J State. Because let's be real, the Coach Prime effect was a real thing. And I think that was the reason why Texas Southern wanted Andre Johnson so bad. I think Fred McNair was the sure thing. I think Andre Johnson, they felt, would have given him the Coach Prime effect. I think Chris Dishman to them is kind of like the best of both worlds. But I think at the end of the day, I think the reason why more so some of these players transferring from these Power Fives to FAMU, to Bethune, to J State, I hate to say it, maybe minus the J State. I think with Bethune and FAMU, I think, like Jake was saying, is recent success. But I hate to say it, I think part of it is NIL money. I don't think the NIL money is as big as people might think it is, but I think that's kind of part of the equation. All right, we're selling tickets at SU. Really and truly, I think it's probably more so tradition. And then I think more than anything, I think hope. Because, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, we were hopeful and optimistic going into last season, but we saw how that played out. But I think more than anything, I think we kind of need Coach Graves to do a good job. And I think if he get everything he could possibly get out of this particular team, I think we have the success that we need to have. Does anybody know where Gerard Sims? I asked somebody about him recently, and I'm gonna be truthful. I think he kind of would be the perfect fit next to Kendrick Grimes right now. I mean, Gerard Sims would be your power back. Kendrick Grimes could be your potential game breaker. Man, I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, that'd be a hell of a 1-2 punch, but I don't know where he landed at, to be truthful. The truth, I don't know where he landed. I asked somebody about him recently, somebody that's around the program and they know stuff, man, I haven't heard anything about it. He said A&T has become what SU should be today. Yeah, but I mean, but the thing about A&T with their whole situation, if you talking about North Carolina A&T, I think them leaving the MEAC, me personally, I kind of think that was a bad move. You know, Jay Good said there's a lot of chicken hawking going on now with recruiting, especially with X, formerly known as Twitter and social media. The second kid posts an offer. Here comes the rest of the conference on or off the radar. And that's a valid point because to keep it real, that's how Southern ended up stealing one Jackson State offensive lineman in recruit. Evidently, this kid was supposed to go to Southern. I mean, I'm sorry, he was supposed to go to Jackson State, and evidently in the 11th hour, from what I'm understanding, Southern stole him from J State. So, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Southern might be losing recruits to Jackson State and FAMU, but it works both ways. Because from what I'm understanding, from what I heard, like J State wasn't too happy about losing that kid, the offensive lineman that Southern ended up getting. How do you feel about SU playing All-Con homecoming? Of course, I addressed this. Turner Boys, I addressed it on episode 1 of SU Fanatics. I'm not a huge proponent of Southern playing All-Con homecoming. To me, it's stupid. I think for homecoming, you want a cupcake type team that you're going. I hate to say it, just a bum bash type game where you play like maybe a lower level team, and you get an easy win, like a Virginia Lynchburg. Because, I mean, just think about it. Harold Blood looked outstanding against Virginia Lynchburg. But last year, we saw he was an outstanding player. So the point I'm trying to make is, man, you need those type of games to kind of get your mojo going and, give everybody a feel-good moment. I mean, All-Con, you're going to, like I said, because you have such a huge contingent of people from Natchez and Baton Rouge. The All-Con game will be a big game anyway. It's a huge rivalry game. A lot of people going to come to that game. You got a lot of people from Mississippi and a lot of people that graduated from All-Con in Baton Rouge. That's going to be a big game regardless. So I don't know why would you put that game on homecoming. To me, that's stupid. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they didn't want a Virginia Lynchburg type situation where, hey, after a certain point, people start leaving. I mean, I don't know. But to me, I'd rather play a Virginia Lynchburg for homecoming as opposed to playing All-Con. To me, that was a stupid move, me myself. Jay Good was saying Sims and Ligon both appear still seem to be in limbo. I mean, and Jay Good and our brother Jared Loving Green, we had this conversation. When these players jump in the portal, man, unless you have a solid place, a for certain solid place to land, man, that's stupid. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Kendrick Grimes, if you put Gerard Sims right next to him, man, that'll be a good thing. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Carl Ligon was a good back, but to me, Carl Ligon and Kendrick Grimes the same type of player anyway. I think the only thing about it is Kendrick Grimes a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, but to me, they kind of like carbon copies to each other. So I don't think you really lose nothing with Ligon, but the fact that Sims with that change of pace back, he give you that thunder and lightning type combination. That's the thing you really want. So, me personally, I kind of feel like, losing Gerard Sims was the bigger loss. And not only that, but Gerard Sims was what? I think he was a fifth-year senior. And, of course, to get the extra year eligibility due to COVID. I mean, he the player that I really feel like you kind of lost, LOL, when we were bringing them schools and folks was complaining. Who was that we played beat 80-something? Oh, yeah, that was Florida Memorial. We beat Florida Memorial 86-0 1 week. And, of course, man, A.W. Mumford Stadium was, the attendance was extremely low. And then, of course, the next week, we go to Tiger Stadium, and LSU kind of beat Southern similarly, where they beat them like, what, 65-17 or whatever it was. So you right, Jay Good. If you play somebody like, like a Florida Memorial, I think it's cool. Well, first of all, Florida Memorial, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate to say it. I think at this point, I think Catholic High will probably be Florida Memorial, just to be truthful. If you put Florida Memorial in Catholic High or Florida Memorial and Liberty High, it might be a good competitive game. So that's telling you everything you need to know about Florida Memorial. That's the reason why Southern beat them 86-0. But I think a Virginia Lynchburg type game, I think that's the perfect type of game you want for homecoming. Those games you play teams over the years like Lincoln and Allen, I think those are the type of games, that kind of build your confidence and build your mojo up. And Willie Bowden was saying SU was missing the power back. I mean, that's why I say the loss of Gerard Sims was such a big loss, because he was your power back. In fact, realistically, he was the only back that was kind of different than every other running back that you had on your roster, because even though Kobe Dillon, he might not be the exact same type of back as Kendrick Grimes and Carl Ligon. He more of your prototypical Southern running back, whether that's a Lindsey Scott or Melvin Williams Jr., Lindsey Scott Sr., or Steve Warford, Ryan Lewis, Cedric Holmes. Gerald Holmes. He one of those type of, whether it's Gerald Holmes or who are, all of those running backs are prototypical Southern University running backs. Whereas Gerard Sims, he was kind of, he broke the mold where he's more of a power back, where he was more of a Lionel Nicholas type back. Because basically what Gerard Sims was, he was what Lionel Nicholas was, when he played with Melvin Williams and what the boy name is, the one that came from LSU. I can't think of his name. The one that ended up being kicked off the team. So he was that type of back. But Sean McCree ever make it out the portal? Nope. He another one. He jumped in the portal. He got stuck at one point. Coach Odom showed some interest in him, but he never panned out. The truth said, Sims rushed for 78 yards on LSU in the first half. And that's the thing about it. Southern was able to move the ball against LSU, but the problem was they wasn't able to punch it in, because essentially you basically had a glorified running back playing quarterback right next to him. So, yeah, for you to have them 2 missed field goals in the first half, I'm like, oh, man, that was 2 missed opportunities. I felt like, of course, maybe the optimist in me, I felt like Southern, instead of having 2 missed field goals, I think they could have had 2 touchdowns. It still would have been 57-14 at halftime anyway, but that's another thing, Turner Boy said, is Cotton back this year? That's the thing about it. I hadn't really got an update on him. Hopefully on, next week's edition of the Coaches Show, I'll be to give you an update on him. But I hadn't really heard anything on him. He's another one. Usually, the people that I'm kind of close to, I don't know what it is about Southern, but everybody knows somebody, and they're always able to tell you about this person or about that person. But it seems like as of late, like certain individuals, like a Gerard Sims, like a Carl Ligon, or like a whoever, it's like, you really can't get no updates on them, Of course, I appreciate everybody in the comment section. Y'all kind of kept this episode, going an extra 30 minutes. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate the love and support. Check out myself and my brother, Jared 11 Green, on his channel tomorrow. Southern Baller Show, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to do another NFL top 10, top 5, kind of similar to my Southern University top 10 videos. What about Cassius Allen? Oh, he another one. When I had my, when I was on Swag Talk with C. Wells, he said he hadn't heard anything about Cassius Allen. I hadn't heard anything about him either. To me, I feel like if you could bring him back, to me, I still think Chandler Whitfield, your top receiver. But I think it's big to have a possession receiver like Cassius Allen. Good. in terms of the crossing routes. You know, he could keep the chains moving. Man, I think you put Chandler Whitfield and Cassius Allen, you know, other guys like Darren Morris. You know, I think those guys can kind of help take your receiving core. I mean, it ain't gonna be as good as the receiving core was this past year, but I think you'll have something to work with. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it too. You know, me and C Wells was talking about this on Swag Talk. Y'all go check out C Wells. You know, when I had a special pre 4th of July, I was on a special pre 4th of July edition of Swag Talk. You know, we talked about this. You know, he was saying guys like Cassius Allen and Darren Morris, he hadn't heard anything about them. And to me, I think, you know, those couple players, I think it kind of be big to kind of complement all these speed receivers you got, because it seemed like Southern played like 20 wide receivers in a Blue versus Gold spring game. So I think having a couple experienced seniors like, you know, like Cassius Allen, like, you know, Darren Morris, experienced guys, I think that can only help take your receiving core up to the next level. And the troops, he said, I heard that Cotton was back, but I don't know. I mean, hopefully he back, you know, hopefully. But I mean, I hadn't heard anything about him either. But like I was saying, you know, tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Southern Baller Show, myself, my brother Jared 11 Green, you know, we're gonna have another edition of the Southern Baller Show. Also, we'll check out the brother Brent Fox, you know, on his channel with his show It's Just Me. And last but certainly not least, here on this channel, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, HBCU Fanatics, where I not only talk about my beloved Southern University Jaguars, but I talk about, you know, things around the SWAC from a Southern University perspective. You know, I hope y'all enjoyed the second edition of the Coaches Show. You know, I appreciate y'all love and support. Catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal evening. Peace and blessings.